Hi, my name is Jenny Lauren Dowden for Conduit News, and today, once again, we have Wade Dunn joining us. Wade is the Republican primary candidate for Arkansas State Representative District 47.
Thank you, Jenny, so much for inviting me up.
Well, we're glad that you're back here in the studio with us. First, just catch us up on your campaign and how it's going.
Well, it's going great. We are talking to a lot of people. There's a lot of support in the community. Visited a lot of people over the weekend, knocked on doors Saturday for 2 or 3 hours and Sunday for 2 or 3 hours, and a lot of support.
What are you hearing from voters in your area right now?
Well, as I was knocking on doors and businesses early on, they were, A, they didn't know who their representative was.
Oh my gosh.
And then B, they sure didn't know his voting record.
Right.
But over the last couple of weeks, what I've heard more is, oh yeah, I know him. I know his voting record. And I appreciate they've seen what we're doing, and exposing his liberal voting record.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that in a second. I wanted to first talk to you about the Arkansas legislature, tax increases, tax cuts, because right now they're, of course, in the fiscal session. The Arkansas legislature recently said that they passed the largest tax cut in Arkansas history.
Right.
However, when you look at our surplus, one might wonder, man, was that enough? What do you think?
Well, they said that, like you said, they have passed the largest tax cut in Arkansas history. And if the economic conditions over the next 4 or 5 years hold up, then that may very well be. But the facts are this. The facts are that the state took in just shy, and I mean just shy, of $1 billion in excessive tax last year. Mm-hmm. That means the state's sitting down there holding a surplus of $1 billion, and they're all standing on the mountaintop screaming, we cut taxes, the largest tax increase that's ever taken place in the state of Arkansas. And that represented $50 million. And I think it's just shy of 50 million, to be honest. And if you do the math on that, that represents 5%. And they've been wanting to dole out another 50,000 or 50 million here, or 50 million there. It kind of reminds me of that saying that we said in the past of redistribution of wealth. The state's got the taxpayers' money in excess of $1 billion. That money needs to be given back to the citizens. There's citizens that need that money to pay their gas bill, their water bill, buy food, buy gasoline.
Well, and also with that tax cut, we have to make sure that we still have legislators in place to protect it over the next few years, since it doesn't even go into effect yet. What do you think about that?
That is true. You need to, we've got to elect conservative, fiscally conservative legislators to protect that, because that can be changed. Right. Just another law passed that gets axed, and we've got to do that. We've got to pass bills to protect citizens' money. The state doesn't need to be holding citizens' money.
Well, especially with COVID, the pandemic, over the past 2 years, small businesses have been hurt and hit so badly. One bill that did not, that ultimately was vetoed down was returning COVID funds back to the businesses.
That's true.
Talk to me about that bill, why you think it failed, and your opponent did not vote for that bill. That's
correct. Yeah, that bill was the legislators wanted to return the COVID funds so that the Department of Health, as they would, and I saw that, we in my business didn't get fined, but I know of places that did get fined, that the Department of Health would come in and they would say, your table's closer than 6 feet, or you don't have our sign on your door or a similar sign on your door. So they wrote them tickets. These guys are struggling already to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
They had them to 50% capacity. And the legislators just wanted to say, we didn't write that law. That was a mandate. We didn't write that law. So we want those fines to go back. My opponent said, no, we don't want, he didn't want those fines to go back to the business owners.
What kind of message does that send to business owners?
Well, he's not a small business guy. He's not somebody, he's never operated a business. He's a doctor. Now get it, he's a good guy and he's a good doctor, but he's not a business. He's not run a business. He's not understood what it means to bring in enough money to pay employees, pay taxes, pay insurance.
Right. When you look at your opponent's record, he has really voted for tax increases time and time again. if you were on the outside looking in, does that look like it's aligned with the Republican Party platform? What should voters think about that?
Well, what I say is I am a real conservative. And the reason I chose that is because that is who I am, but also compared to my opponent. Lee Johnson, in Wade Dunn's opinion, and many others that I've talked to, is not a real conservative. A real conservative would not vote for 7 of 7 taxes in the 92nd General Assembly. Every tax that came along. And that's just not, I mean, you can say you're a Republican, but those are just words. Words do not equal actions. And when your words don't equal your actions, then people got to go by what they're seeing, not what you're telling them.
And I think that is something that's really resonating right now with our Kansans. Conduit has been doing a series on campaign words. A lot of times it's just empty rhetoric. What do you see in the Arkansas legislature right now as far as, we largest tax cut ever, we're doing this, we're, fighting for your individual rights and freedom, but then you don't see them pushing back on the mandates and such when Republicans have a supermajority. How do you reconcile all of that?
Well, we've got to elect people that will stand up and be constitutionalists, that will say the Constitution is supreme law of the land, regardless of the mandates, regardless of law, regardless of Supreme Court. The Constitution reigns as supreme over all of that. And until we get that, until we quit trying to satisfy Joe over here and Bill over here and Bob over here, and start saying we're going to stand upon the Constitution, and I go one step further and say, I'm going to stand on God's word, the Bible, the Holy Bible first, and the Constitution second. But that's just who I am. But that's what we've got to do. We've got to elect real conservative, real Republicans.
Well, also talk to us about the trans youth bill. That is a bill that he joined one of a few Republicans and Democrats on. Talk to us about that one.
That was House Bill 1570 of the 93rd General Assembly. And you're right, he and 3 other Republicans voted no, and a few Democrats voted no. Some Democrats, I think, voted in favor of it. And it was a ban. It was a bill that says, in Arkansas, we're not going to allow our children to be surgically castrated, chemical castration. It's just off limits.
Right.
And somehow they figured out that was a bad bill, and they voted against it. I don't know how you can get to that in your mind, but I certainly would have never voted against that bill. I would have supported that bill. Our children don't even know what they want for dinner tonight, much less whether they're born a boy and want to be a girl. And the other thing I say to that, and God made no mistakes. I mean, if we're saying that God made a mistake in this manner, then where else in the Bible do we make sense? Where's our faith? Where's our hope? There's none. God made no mistakes. And to agree to allow children to make this decision before their mind is even complete, it's just terrible.
Talk to us about what it truly means to stand on, you've said the Constitution, but your faith as well. Talk about why your faith is so important.
Well, that's just who I am. I'm 58 years old, and I spent a good portion of my lifetime. I've been a Christian since I was in high school, but the biggest portion of my life, I was a driver of the bus instead of letting God drive the bus. And about age 50, it is wisdom, gray hair, whatever, is when I realized that if you will let God take control of your life, if you'll let God, he wants to drive that bus, if you'll let him drive that bus, and if you'll take the back seat to that things start making sense, things starts lining out. And if just look in our lives and the way God has arranged things so that we can run this campaign, it's just amazing. It blows our mind right now.
Well, how would you want people to get in touch with you, to follow your campaign, to talk to you about issues? What do people need to do?
Well, we've got our webpage and our Facebook page and my phone number, 479-806-3578. That's the phone I've carried for 15 years. It's not a campaign phone, so they can surely reach out to me any way they want to.
Thank you so much for coming into the studio. We really appreciate having you back on.